It's back. Enter the chilling world of the Stephen King library. The books that became blockbuster movies. When you enter the unearthly world of the Stephen King library, where the master is coming back to haunt you.
Mr. Mash, who is the most popular horror author in the world?
Richard Bachman.
Well, who is Richard Bachman, JD?
Some author that wrote a bunch of books.
More pertinently, who was Richard Bachman a pseudonym of?
Howard and Mary Bachman wouldn't appreciate you trying to say that their son is fake.
Does the name Stephen King mean anything to you?
No.
Not a thing.
Never heard of him.
Never heard of the guy.
No.
Obviously, Stephen King, very popular author, one of the best-selling authors in the world. He works predominantly in the horror genre. A lot of his books would fall into the horror, thriller, supernatural genre.
That's fair.
Many of his books and stories to be adapted into films. And we've talked about Stephen King stuff before. We talked about Carrie when we did high school horror. We talked about Silver Bullet when we did werewolves. I'm sure it's come up some other times. And this episode is meant to be a more definitive take on Stephen King. You know, I hear there's this really nice town upstate called Jerusalem's Lot. You want to go up there, hang out for a while?
No, man, that place is full of vampires.
Ben Mears has been away too long, and now at last he's come home. Home to the childhood memories, to the old familiar faces, to a life unmolested by time. Home to Salem's Lot, a town too good to be true. Something is happening. Something terrible.
First a kid disappears, then this. You're not leaving Salem's Lot, are you?
I'm not leaving.
Somebody out there. I let him in.
Stephen King, the best-selling author of Carrie and The Shining, takes you on a startling journey to Salem's Lot.
Stephen King's second novel, Salem's Lot, was adapted into a television miniseries / movie.
What was his first novel?
Carrie. It was the first novel that was published, anyway, I should say. Salem's Lot was adapted into a television miniseries, movie-type thing, in 1979. It aired on CBS, originally aired in 2 parts, 3 hours long in toto. You like this movie.
I love this movie.
You love Salem's
This
Lot.
is one of my favorite vampire movies.
Alright, what do you love about it?
It's just creepy. They took very simple vampire makeup and made them creepy. The way that the eyes glow and they peck on the windows. They had the right actors for the right job.
You don't think the special effects are cheesy?
Okay, well, it's a TV movie, so lay off of them.
This is something we've disagreed about before. I don't really like Salem's Lot that much. I find the pacing to be incredibly slow. And this is a problem the book has, too. Film spends a lot of time on the side characters, the subplots. They aren't really that important. There's the mover, who's an alcoholic, and his wife is cheating on him with Fred Willard. I don't give a shit about that stuff. The main character's girlfriend has an obsessive ex-boyfriend who comes and beats up the main guy, and that subplot comes and goes. There are a lot of little things like that. Kind of bothers me. No, I don't really find the movie scary either. Obviously, there are some images that are famous, like the little boy scratching on the window. See the wires holding them up, and the face paint is very simple. The whole thing strikes me as rather hokey.
You're an asshole, and this movie's awesome. I don't care what you have to say about it.
What do you think of that lead actor, David Soul? Was he Starsky or was he Hutch?
He was the blonde one.
Yeah.
I think you're being unfair to this movie. You're looking at it as big studio production, and it's not. It's a TV movie.
Yeah, it is a TV movie.
You need to learn to excuse some of that stuff. I think that it does have some very intense moments.
I know you're a big fan of the scene where the gravedigger is sitting in the rocking
Well,
chair.
hell yeah. Your heart doesn't race just a little bit when you're watching that part of the movie, not even a little bit.
When the guy's sitting there in the rocking chair going, "Teacher!"
Yeah.
It doesn't do a damn thing for me.
Look at me, teacher.
I like Barlow, our main vampire antagonist.
That scene where he
Comes through the window.
Yeah.
The second half of Salem's Lot, when they've cut through a lot of the subplots, is superior, because now we can focus on the hero going into the Marston house and trying to kill the vampire, vampire. James Mason is notably in this as Stryker, who is the Renfield of Barlow's Dracula. In the book, Barlow is more of a traditional, gentlemanly Dracula-type vampire, and in this, he's basically Nosferatu.
That was a wise decision on the movie's part. They needed something to really make the movie stand out.
They need to make it scarier.
That makeup is iconic.
Oh, I do love the Barlow design. Yeah, it is a really cool vampire. I don't hate the movie, I just find it to be rather mediocre. Notably, though, it was directed by Tobe Hooper of Texas Chainsaw Massacre fame.
We'll just have to agree to disagree on this movie.
Have you ever seen the sequel, A Return to Salem's Lot from
Yeah, it's
1987? Some people love it. It has a following.
Well, those people are jackasses.
Did you ever see the remake miniseries with
Yes,
Rob Lowe?
it was horrible.
Yeah, Rutger Hauer played Barlow in that. That one I think
And
was
even he couldn't say that movie. Let's move on.
I don't suppose they told you anything in Denver about the tragedy we had up here during the winter of 1970? Well, a man named Charles Grady is the winter caretaker. And he came up here with his wife and two little girls, I think about 8 and 10. From what I've been told, I mean, he seemed like a completely normal individual. But at some point during the winter, he must have suffered some kind of a complete mental breakdown. He ran amok and killed his family with an axe.
You can rest assured, Mr. Ullman, that's not going to happen with me.
Here's Johnny!
Maybe the most famous Stephen King movie adaptation is 1980's The Shining. A couple months ago we were doing an episode about scariest films ever made, and The Shining was usually near the top of those lists, widely regarded as one of the best horror films ever made. Controversial opinion incoming, The Shining's a really good movie. I like it a lot.
That's not controversial.
What do you think is the most infamous aspect of The Shining? Because so much of this film has contributed to wider pop culture.
Everyone talks about the twins.
Who are not actually twins, they're just sisters. It's a common misconception.
Well, but nonetheless, they talk about them. The scene that stuck with me is the fucking elevator of blood. They used it as their hook to get people into
Yeah, that was the trailer.
Freaking creepy. An elevator comes up in slow-mo and opens, blood just pours out of it. It's like, oh my god, how many people did they kill to fill that elevator with blood?
Not knowing exactly what's happening is something this movie does a lot at the end, where Wendy's running around the hotel and she sees a man in a bedroom with a person in a dog suit. It appears that something sexual is happening, and it's just a very odd moment. This movie has a lot of that startling horror imagery.
Another scene that really got me, the acting where he's trying to break through the door.
Oh yeah, here's Johnny.
Yeah, Wendy.
Darling, light
Love
of my life.
Of my life.
The scene in room 237 with the old woman, sexy naked woman. She turns into this crone with leprosy sores on her, cackling crazy. These images are designed to make us feel uncomfortable. Something the movie does first that makes those later sequences so effective. It establishes the ordinary. The film makes use of these title cards that gives the date, the day of the week, or how many months it's been. And that feels a documentary moment. And there are a lot of scenes in that first half an hour of people just sitting around and talking. When Jack is going for his job interview, when Wendy is telling Danny's doctor about his condition, or later when Halloran and Danny are talking at the hotel. And that's really there to establish the sense of the ordinary. And once we understand that, the ordinary can be disrupted with these very disturbing horror images. Or even with the way the movie shot, the Steadicam sequences, where the camera is tracking Danny on his big wheel. That's another subtle way.
Rad wrong. The creepiest kid in movie history.
Famous anecdote that the actor Danny Lloyd didn't even know he was making a horror movie. He just thought he was making a movie about people living in a hotel. Stanley Kubrick somehow convinced the kid that he wasn't making a horror film. And that kid's performance is pretty raw, but I think it works. He acts like a real child. And something else that I think makes this film so creepy is this incredible sense of tone. It's ominous from those opening minutes. It's the helicopter shot of the VW Beetle going towards the hotel. Score by Wendy Carlos, very creepy. It feels like a funeral dirge. And something people have pointed out is that the interior architecture of the Overlook Hotel doesn't make any sense. There are doors and windows and tunnels and walls where they shouldn't be. There's no physical way for them to be there, which is something you don't even really notice when you're watching the movie, but I think it's a subtle thing that unnerves you subconsciously.
I think what makes the movie work so well, it is an average family. You have Jack Nicholson, at this time as a balding man. He just looks like an average Joe.
Shelley Duvall certainly doesn't look like your traditional movie star.
Right. She doesn't have perfect teeth. She doesn't have
string
perfect
bean.
skin.
Yeah. Stephen King infamously does not like this movie. A lot of shitty movies have been made based off of Stephen King's books. For some reason, this one really sticks in his teeth. He says it's because Stanley Kubrick didn't understand the evil of the Overlook Hotel. That's actually one of the things I really like about the movie, because in this film, evil is a man. Early on, there's that scene where Wendy is talking to Doctor and says how Jack came home drunk one night and hurt Danny's shoulder. What I think is really one of the creepiest scenes in the movie is when Danny goes upstairs to get his fire engine, and his dad sitting on the bed, and his dad insists that he come over and sit on his lap, and it's so incredibly uncomfortable. The sense very early on that Jack already wants to kill his wife and child subconsciously. The isolation of being in the hotel pushes him over the edge.
I mean, I guess that's possible, but I think the movie works better if it's purely supernatural.
There is some discussion about the ambiguity. People always point towards the scene where Jack gets locked in the food cellar and the ghost let him out. Okay, well, this is definitively a haunting. I kind of like both theories. There is a haunting, the Overlook is haunted, but Jack is also already on edge by the time he gets there. That ending is rather ambiguous. People debate to this day what that final image means, that shot of the 1920s New Year's party and Jack suddenly in the picture.
Maybe he was dead all along.
I think what that ending means is Jack has been absorbed into the Overlook Hotel. Earlier, he meets the previous caretaker, Grady, who also went crazy and killed his family. Grady says to him, "You've always been here, Mr. Torrance." And I just get the sense that when somebody dies in the Overlook, they become part of the Overlook forever. Obviously, any Stanley Kubrick film has been torn apart and studied ad nauseum. There are a lot of crazy theories about this movie. Some people believe that this film is Stanley Kubrick's confession that he faked the moon landing. There are people who think this movie is about the Holocaust. And a lot of these theories are pretty far out, but one that does interest me, some people think this film is about the massacre of the American Indian. Families moving into the hotel, the manager says that Overlook was built on an Indian burial ground. And all throughout the hotel, there is this kitschy American Indian-style artwork on the walls. Big difference between the movie and the book is in the book, Halloran lives, and the movie, Halloran is killed. The hotel uses a racial slur to refer to Halloran. The sense in the film that the Overlook Hotel has a negative energy that is pointedly, aggressively male and white. That's definitely in the film's DNA. But overall, The Shining is a great, great, great movie. I think we both love it. What do you think of that 1997 TV version of The Shining? Any thoughts on that?
I like the movie. I don't think it's nearly as good, but I do think it does handle a few things a little better than the movie, pacing-wise. It has the time to really develop that.
Yeah, it's a 3-hour-long miniseries as opposed to a 2-hour movie.
Right. It has time to really develop the ghost driving him crazy.
I'll be totally honest, I've never seen the TV version, but everything I've read about it makes it sound pretty hokey.
I'm not trying to say it's a great movie. I have pretty low standards.
Yeah, I've seen the women you date.
Should we talk about some of the women you've dated?
No. Earlier I mentioned some of those crazy far-out theories. They actually made a documentary called Room 237, which I thought was really compelling. Some people hate that movie. I like it. And there's even been discussion about making a prequel to The Shining. No. It was going to be called The Overlook Hotel and was going to be directed by Mark Romanok. I don't know if that's still in production or not.
Nothing that lives in the imagination is more frightening than the terror that lives in Castle Rock, Maine.
Can he get us in here? Can he eat his way in here? Can he?
From the novel by Stephen King comes a startling vision of fear. Now there's a new name for terror. Cujo.
Hey, here's a Stephen King movie from 1983. We are entrenched in the 80s now. Cujo.
Pretty cool, yeah.
I think it's underrated. You don't hear a lot about it. Cujo is a movie that holds up really well.
Deep down, everyone's afraid of being mauled by a big dog. This movie really hits that fear right on the head.
Yeah, Cujo is very frightening.
Yeah, the mom and the kid get locked in the car. That whole last act, you're biting your nails the whole time.
Well, it's not even the last act, it's most of the movie.
Yeah.
Cujo is a slow-paced family drama for the first half an hour. Vic is the father, Tad is the son. There are a lot of scenes of the mother, Donna, bonding with the boy. And then there's this subplot about Donna cheating on her husband with Man, who's kind of crazy. And I don't really like that subplot very much, because I don't think it contributes to the movie.
But in the book, is it more implied?
I've never read the book, so I don't know.
Man, you're the one that always does this shit full tilt. And you didn't read the book before we did the podcast?
But once they get to the house and the car breaks down, Cujo just becomes non-stop tension. Great jump scare when Cujo jumps up in the window and goes...
He gets me every time.
He's headbutting the door and tearing off the handle and trying to get into the car. As scary as Cujo is, he's still sympathetic, because after all, he's just a dog. Yeah. And he's sick. He has rabies. He's dying. He becomes kind of pathetic, even though he never loses that frightening element to it. Who stars in this movie?
I don't know the dog's name.
Talking about the actress playing the mom.
Oh, Dee Wallace. We met that person.
Dee Wallace, special effects genre's favorite mom. She's really good in this. Danny Pintaro, who plays the little boy, is very good. You have to accept some contrivances. The idea that the car would break down at that exact moment, the day the dog has rabies, the day the wife and son are gone from the house because they're on vacation. The mailman doesn't come and deliver to the mechanic's house because he's lost his license. There are some little contrivances like that. You just have to go with them. But I think Cujo's really underrated. I like that one a lot.
If the future were in your hands, would you change it?
It's not too late.
Touch this man's hand, and you are in the grip of the dead zone. Only the imagination of author Stephen King could take you there, with a power that alters the future lives of those you love.
You want to kill your own son?
Or of those you fear. Is it a power for good or for evil?
God has seen fit to bless you with this gift. You should use it.
Bless me?
Not only can you see the future,
I can change it.
Here's another one from the same year, The Dead Zone. We just watched this movie like 15 minutes ago.
What? This is a good movie. It's got a zone full of dead people.
Does it?
Yes. It does.
This was directed by David Cronenberg, and this came between Videodrome and The Fly. And compared to those two, it doesn't have a lot of the Cronenbergian body horror. This is still very much a Stephen King story. It's set in New England. Johnny Smith, the main character, is very much the classical Stephen King everyman. All of Stephen King's books, most of them anyway, can be summed up with the one-line plot synopsis. It was a nice day, and then the evil came.
It was a nice day, and then shit happened.
Yeah. Who stars in The Dead Zone?
Well, you must be talking walking.
Christopher Walken, one of our favorite actors on this show. In that first act, before he goes into the coma, trying to play a normal, everyday guy. Mm-hmm. The second half, he becomes increasingly more...
Walken.
Yeah, a little more eccentric, a little more unhinged. There's a great...
What was that line he yelled when he smacked...
The ice is gonna break! I love that man. Yeah, he's great in this movie. One of my top 5 favorite Christopher Walken performances. I love Brooke Adams as the girlfriend. Has an incredible girl next door charm. What do you think of the... I guess you call him the villain of the film, Martin Sheen.
I was like, hey, that's Martin Sheen.
Playing another politician. Total political bastard in this movie. And happens to remind me a lot of a current Republican candidate.
Oh, it's okay, Zach. We'll overcome it in the long run.
I hope so. And I'm not the first person to notice that similarity there. It's not really a problem with The Dead Zone, but the plot is somewhat episodic. These segments where Johnny falls into the coma, he wakes up, he discovers his powers. There's that really fantastic second act where they're tracking the serial killer. Finally, the last part of the movie is devoted to him realizing that if this Greg Stilson guy gets elected president, he will bring about the end of the world.
Yeah.
Now, what do you think of that serial killer sequence, which I think is the highlight of the movie?
Yeah, it's a pretty cool scene.
They call him the Castle Killer. He's raping and murdering girls in the town, and Johnny uses
I saw him.
And what I love about that sequence is how much of a story David Cronenberg tells with just that design. Serial killers, he sleeps in a child's bedroom, and it's covered with cowboy artwork. That suggests a certain amount of arrested development. The way Dodd, the serial killer, commits suicide is very strange. He strips naked and puts on a leather trench coat, pushes his head onto a pair of scissors. It's very ritualistic and odd and unnerving.
I think I pretty much said, what the fuck is he doing?
That's what you say, yeah. I've watched this movie twice in 1 week now, and I gotta say, I think The Dead Zone is actually a really good film. A lot of David Cronenberg fans dismiss this as Cronenberg's reach for the mainstream, which it is, but I still think it's a good film. Did you ever see the TV version starring Anthony Michael Hall that ran from 2002 to 2007?
Was that Anthony Michael Hall?
Yeah, it was.
I saw it, but I don't remember much
Yeah,
about
I never really watched it, but I can see how you would look at the Dead Zone book and movie, since it has that episodic quality, how they would think, oh, we can turn this into a detective show. Unlike a lot of other movie-to-TV adaptations, that one makes sense to me.
Charlie McGee is a happy, healthy little 8-year-old girl. Normal in every way, but one. Charlie has the power. She can set things on fire with just a glance. It is a power she does not want, a power she cannot control, and each night she prays to be just like every other child. But there are those who will do everything in their power to find her, to control her, and maybe to destroy her. Charlie McGee is Stephen King's Firestarter.
Here's another one from 1984, Firestarter.
This is probably one of the best Stephen King movies.
You like it that much?
I like it that much.
Now, do you like it because it's good, or do you like it because it has a girl using psychic powers to blow shit up?
The reason I like it, Zach, is irrelevant to this conversation, okay? Just know that I like it.
Now, would you consider Firestarter a horror movie?
Yes.
Because of the grisly special effects, people getting blown up and burned? It's more in the sci-fi thriller realm.
I mean, it is more in the sci-fi thriller realm, but it definitely crosses that threshold into horror when you have someone's eyes starting to bleed and shit like that.
Yeah. The thing with Firestarter is a movie cut in two, because that first half is a chase picture. Andy and Charlie are on the run from the shop. In the middle of that, we get flashbacks. We find out why the father has telepathy and why the daughter has pyrokinesis. Once Charlie gets captured, it becomes the story about her being manipulated by this government-sanctioned hitman called Rainbird, who is obviously meant to be a Native American character, who's played by George C. Scott, who is not an American Indian.
Right.
But it doesn't matter because George C. Scott's fucking awesome.
Keeps judo chopping people across the nose bridge.
Yeah, kills them, shoves their nose bones up into their brain. I actually really like the relationship between Drew Barrymore and George C. Scott, and that provides the heart of the movie, even though you know that he's manipulating her.
Yeah.
What do you think of Drew Barrymore in this? Kind of the hottest child star in the world at the time.
I think she had a pretty good performance.
I don't know, it comes and goes. Some moments are better than others. Sometimes I don't really buy her in this situation. It's not Keith David that plays her dad. It's David Keith, different actor entirely. He has this really bad southern accent. And you know who else is in this movie? Martin Sheen.
What?
That's 2 Stephen King movies in a row that have Martin Sheen in them playing a bad guy. We'll notice a couple of names come up repeatedly throughout this. I also like Art Carney, but as I said, I think the real reason you enjoy this movie is the scenes where Charlie
is fire starting, I know.
Unleashes her powers, the scene on the farm where she blows up the cars. And...
Okay, but you mean to tell me you don't like that scene?
Oh, I like the scene! Especially at the end when she's shooting the flaming...
I'm just saying, man, I don't watch Carrie for the heart. I watch Carrie the blood and mayhem.
And this superficially resembles Carrie. That last act where she leaves the shop and she goes on a rampage, has fiery trails chasing after people and shooting flaming biscuits of doom at helicopters and trucks and shit. It's full of mayhem. Shit is blowing up good. Notably, this movie was directed by Mark L. Lester, who would go on to make Commando. Did you ever see the 2002 TV sequel, Firestarter 2 Rekindled?
I have.
I own it. I own it on a 2-pack of the first one, but I don't think I've ever actually watched it. Is it any good?
It's definitely worth watching, at least for the continuation of the story.
Because now Charlie's a grown-up hot chick.
Do you know the chick in Queen of the Damned that's lusting after Lestat?
Alea? Okay, yeah, what about her?
That's the grown-up Charlie.
Alea?
No. Not the Queen of the Damned herself.
I've never seen Queen of the Damned.
But you literally have not seen anything notable this woman has done.
I know Malcolm McDowell's in Firestarter 2.
Yeah, say we met that guy.
We did. I've never seen it. But that first Firestarter...
It's Aaliyah, by the way.
Oh, whatever. That rap chick who died. First Firestarter, it's not a great classic, but it's pretty entertaining for what it is.
The last act of Firestarter 2 is kind of, if you excuse the liberal usage of the word, a monster mash.
Why, is she fighting other people with psychic powers?
Yes. The shop creates an army of kids that have psychic powers.
Oh, yeah? I own it, so I might have to watch it, though. Isn't it a miniseries? Isn't it like 3 hours long?
It's a little long.
I don't know about that.
Stephen King, master of modern horror, has written his first motion picture screenplay. It combines all the elements of his creative imagination. Lovable pets, classic cars, quiet evenings, adorable kids, and of course, a monster or two. Experience a series of electrifying adventures as seen through Stephen King's Cat's Eye.
Hey, remember a minute ago when I just said that certain actors show up again? Because Drew Barrymore was in another Stephen King adaptation, which was 1985's Cat's Eye. This is an anthology feature, and it adapts 2 stories from Stephen King's Night Shift collection. And the third one was written for the 3 and by King. It's almost like a dark comedy.
Yeah.
It's not really meant to be scary. There's a lot of humor. The movie opens with a reference to both Christine and Cujo. This movie was directed by the same guy who made Cujo, Louis Teague. And that first segment is Quitters Inc. is almost pure dark comedy. You've got James Woods acting very high-strung because he really wants a cigarette. He's afraid these crazy people are going to rape his wife or something. Like Christopher Walken, James Woods is one of those actors that you watch to go nuts. You want to see him pick up a phone and throw it across the room. You want to see him yelling at an empty closet. You want to see him trying to sneak a cigarette underneath of his car in rush hour traffic. What do you think of the more farcical moments in Quitters Inc. when he's having hallucinations of dancing cigarette boxes?
That's interesting.
The right tone. And then it has that great ending, which is kind of like a Twilight Zone segment. The segments in this movie get better with each new one. Because the second segment is called The Ledge. Really great villain, the sadistic mob boss who's forcing this man who slept with his wife to walk around the small edge on top of this casino. And he's getting a big clown horn and blowing it in his ear, or if someone cheats on him or hitting him with a hose, he's really not playing fair at all.
I noticed something at the beginning of that segment, and I want to see if you noticed it. It's loosely implied that this mob boss might have the ability to telepathically speak with cats.
I don't know if we mentioned...
Betting on the...
If the cat can get across the road.
Yeah, he looks at him and says, "Go now." And then the cat starts darting across the...
I don't think the mob boss has...
And then it causes a big wreck, which, by the way, who the hell would swerve like that to miss a damn cat on a busy road like that? I would just hit the fucker and lose sleep over it for a couple of days.
I don't want to hurt a cat.
I don't want to hurt a cat either, but if it comes to hurting a cat or hurting my car...
The Ledge has elements of comedy, too, like when the pigeon attacks the guy.
Yeah.
Which is another funny moment. Another one that has a nice twist ending about the fate of the girlfriend. Kind of gets the Gwyneth Paltrow treatment, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
You said your favorite segment is the last one, and I think most people agree that the last part of Cat's Eye is the best part. The segment's called General, and this is where Drew Barrymore comes in. The cat who has been connecting all of these stories, had a small role in the first two parts, becomes the main character in this one. Thing about Drew Barrymore in this movie, different role from Charlie, for sure.
I think she's acting a little better.
Yeah, she's a little more natural. She seems a bit more comfortable in this part. She's not killing people, she's just playing a normal little girl. You know, I love little monsters, JD, and there is a little monster in this movie.
Yes. And is that Howie Mandel voicing that monster?
No, it's Frank Welker, who did the Gremlins in Gremlins.
Okay.
In addition to 100 other things. A troll that comes out of the wall has this funny little jester's hat and a tiny little knife.
Yeah.
And there's some really cool scenes that are shot on a oversized set of the girl's bedroom. Obviously, it's an actor in a suit, but it works really well.
Yeah, I know. That's a different form of pseudomation there.
Yeah, it is. The reverse of what we traditionally think of pseudomation.
Yeah.
The conflict of the story is that the mother won't let the daughter sleep with the cat because she believes this myth that cats suck out children's breaths. The truth is, the troll's the one who tries to suck out the little girl's breath, and the cat actually saves the day in a very amusing manner. You remember that? How they killed the troll with the turntable?
Put him on the turntable and spun it really fast, and then he lets go, and goes flying into the fan, and gets chopped into itty bitty little pieces.
The song playing on the record is Every Breath You Take by the Police. Ha 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 ha. Cat's Eye is not really a traditional horror film. It's pretty lightweight. It's not really trying to scare you. It has a comedic tone. I actually like it a lot.
I like the little fake out twist they do at the end of that one too.
Oh, where the cat jumps up on her face.
Oh no! He's actually going to steal her breath.
But then he just licks her lips.
And then he just licks her lips.
Yeah, it's just an adorable pussycat.
What is this place? I brought you here to bury Alan's cat.
Daddy, is church all right?
What did we do tonight, Judge? What we did, Lois, was a secret.
Has anyone ever buried a person up there?
You're thinking thoughts best not thought of.
Come back to me, Gage. Come back to us.
Paramount Pictures presents Stephen King's all-time best-selling tale of horror, Pet Sematary.
Speaking of cats, damn, it's all connected, bro.
And all I gotta say is, I don't want to be buried
in a pet cemetery. I don't want to live my life again. I have a personal anecdote about Pet Sematary. One of the reasons I think I'm into the horror genre now, when I was a little kid, my teenage sister, she's not a teenager anymore, she was a teenager then, loved Stephen King. She had a whole shelf full of Stephen King books in her bedroom. And one cover in particular really upset me, and it was the cover to the paperback of Pet Sematary, which has this demonic-looking cat on the cover. I couldn't stand to look at it. It scared the shit out of me. And she would, my sister being who she is, would chase me around the house with this book cover. That's not really related that much to the movie. I just had to talk about that.
Yeah, the first time I saw this movie, it scared the shit out of me.
Really? This one scared you?
Yeah.
It seemed to have had that effect on a lot of people.
I think it was the kid that got me the most.
Gage?
Yeah.
This little baby who comes back as a homicidal zombie?
Yeah, that one. And then the guy that keeps poofing in and out, and he gets more and more...
Yeah, Pascal.
Yeah.
The ghostly hitchhiker. I feel like we're disagreeing a lot tonight. There are a lot of things about the movie that make me wonder if we're supposed to take it serious. This one's set in Ludlow, Maine. Have we mentioned how almost every Stephen King story is set in Maine? Because it is. As soon as the family gets there, they're getting these bad omens. The mother is having nightmares, and the father, his college student hitchhiker, die on him. But before Pascal dies, he gives him a warning. You have that horror movie cliche of the ignored oracle. You have the next door neighbor, played by...
Herman Munster.
Yes. Fred Gwynne. Yeah, Herman Munster. Who has this hilarious New England accent. Sometimes dead is better. He tells him, don't bury a body in that pet cemetery because he'll come back as a soulless zombie.
Well, you know, if he would have never told the guy about the pet cemetery in the first place...
That's very true.
He'll come back wrong, I tell you! Wrong!
And even that concept of the Indian burial ground is horror cliche, too, I would say.
That's like one of the biggest horror cliches.
Why would a parent take their toddler baby, Gage is like 2 years old, why would they take their eyes off this kid for that much time, especially if they know they live on a busy road? Build a goddamn fence. Lewis is the father, horribly traumatized by the death of his child, and what does his wife and daughter do? They leave town.
Yeah, this is Denise Crosby.
Yes, whom
mom
we've met.
Right?
Yeah. After going through this horrible ordeal of his child coming back as a murderous monster who kills his wife, he does it again. He buries his wife. I have a lot of trouble sympathizing with the characters in this movie because they all make such bad decisions.
Does that happen in the book?
Yeah, this film is a pretty close adaptation to the book.
I liked the movie, but I was also 12 years old when I saw this movie for the first time.
And it seems like that's the experience a lot of people have. They see this movie when they're very young and it makes an impression on them. The acting in this is objectively terrible, right?
It's horror movie level acting.
That main actor, Dale Midkiff, he screams a lot. There are two scenes in this movie where he shouts to the heavens. You know, the guy playing Pascal Pascal, Brad Greenquist. I find him to be very robotic. I don't even like Denise Crosby's performance that much. Really, it's just Fred Gwynne who is great in this movie, but he's great in everything.
Well, now, hold on, Gage. His performance is pretty good.
That's true. Miko Hughes, who plays the baby. He is pretty good. And it's a shame because Mary Lambert, the director, has a good visual sense. There are some nice atmospheric, spooky moments in this. I like the cat church. Pet Sematary, I have some problems with that keep me from enjoying it fully. Have you ever seen the sequel to Pet Sematary 2 from 1992?
I have, but I don't remember much about it.
Same
I remember
here.
it being like a prequel.
I know Clancy Brown and, the kid from Terminator 2, Edward Furlong, are in it. I actually think I liked it a little more than the first one, but most people do not like it. And for years they were talking about remaking Pet Sematary. Alexander Aja was attached to it for a while. This one is a good candidate for remake.
Stephen King invites you to venture deep inside the caverns below the old Bachman Mill, where a secret lies long forgotten by any living soul. The workers suspect it. The owner denies it. And everyone fears it. Because one by one, it will devour them all. This is the new horror from the mind of Stephen King.
Can we hurry up, man? I gotta go work the graveyard shift tonight.
Okay. From 1990, Graveyard Shift. This is another overlooked King adaptation. Got some things about it I like.
Well, I'll be honest, I've seen it, I remember liking it, and I remember there being like a giant rat or something in it.
Yes, there is a giant rat bat monster thing.
But that's about it.
Textile mine, people underground.
Well, I remember all that.
The dad from Monster Squad's in it. He plays this boss who is a total asswipe, and by the end of the movie becomes completely insane. Brad Dourif is in this, you remember him?
No.
As the rat exterminator who gives a great monologue about how the Viet Cong would torture people with rats. Andrew Devioff, the Wishmaster's in this movie too. He's one of the workers who gets eaten.
Is he really?
Yeah. One of the things I like about Graveyard Shift, in this movie the rats are symbolic of both the workers and their employees. Rats are just trying to survive, set in this textile mine that's dilapidated, and the rats have overcome the place. They're just trying to survive, and they're getting crapped on by everything above them. But at the same time, the boss is figuratively a rat because he is blackmailing people into working for him. And every time an employee dies, which is often, he dispassionately slips a new help wanted sheet on the door. The giant rat monster creature is what people most remember out this movie. A pretty solid monster design. It moves a little stiffly. Graveyard Shift, it's not like a great movie, but it is a good, you're hanging out with a buddy, you want to put on a cheesy monster movie from the 80s. This is a good candidate for that.
So you say somebody got eaten in this? I bet they were in extreme misery over that.
You almost died. And as soon as the road's open, I'll take you to a hospital. There is nothing to worry about. I'm your #1 fan.
I guess it was kind of a miracle you finding me.
The presumption must now be that Paul Sheldon is dead.
You dirty bird. How could you? Misery Chastain cannot be dead. And don't even think about anybody coming for you, because I never called them. And you better hope nothing happens to me. Because if I die, you die.
Here's another big one, 1990's Misery. This is one of the rare horror films to win an Academy Award, though assuming you consider it a horror movie.
Misery is definitely a horror movie.
Perhaps belongs more to the thriller genre, but it has elements that push it into horror.
If you look at Annie
Wilkes.
If you look at Annie Wilkes as representative of the ghost character, this is almost like an old dark house movie.
Okay, I guess, sort of.
Well, it's somebody trapped in a house.
Yeah, it has
opposing force.
It has that isolated element.
And he goes exploring the house.
Alright, I can see where you're coming from. What I like about this movie so much is Annie Wilkes, and what makes her such a great villain, aside from Kathy Bates, who is just fantastic, is at first she seems super genial. She seems like a normal old woman, because she likes cheesy romance novels and Liberace. She has a pet pig. Her house is full of knickknacks.
She's not old. She's
middle-aged.
Really like her.
She's a devout Christian. She votes Republican. She never swears. That's the way the main character, Paul, sees her at first, because she rescues him from this car crash, nursing him back to health. It seems like a miracle at first, but it very quickly becomes a nightmare, because Annie Wilkes is fucking crazy. She's completely nuts.
Well, that is a very valid point.
Annie has a long, disturbing history. Paul's asleep in bed, and Annie comes into his bedroom in the middle of the night. She's just read that he's killed off Misery Chastain. She's ready to kill him then. She picks up the table and smashes it against the wall and is screaming at him like crazy. Even when discussing something as non-serious as old-time movie serials, Annie displays an unhinged passion. You remember that? He didn't get out of the cock-a-doodie cars.
Yeah.
I love that. She's also kind of pathetic. It's a moment where she's having a depressive episode. She has a gun. She's thought about suicide. Says to Paul that you're not getting out out of here alive. There's so many layers to that character.
Alright, should we talk about the singing?
Oh, the hobbling?
The ass clincher.
The infamous hobbling sequence. Crescendo moment in horror, because it's set to this slowly building classical music. And the first time you watch it, you're thinking, what is she going to do? Because she's talking about the Kimberly Diamond Mine used to hobble their employees. Oh no, Paul, they wouldn't kill them. Slowly, she puts this wedge between his feet. He's got the hammer, and it's like, well, what the fuck is she going to do?
Just swings it with such ferocity.
It's that special effect. It's simple, it's rubber and latex, but you see
the foot goes sideways, and
the ankle becomes jelly, and there's that sound, that crunching noise. Jesus Christ.
Oh, God. I can't even think about it.
It's a great moment. What do you think of James Caan as Paul Sheldon?
I don't care.
You have no thoughts on James Caan?
I mean, he's alright, but he's not why I watched the movie.
It's all about Kathy Bates for you.
Yeah.
There are a lot of good, intense moments. Paul gets out of the room, and he's looking around, and meanwhile, Annie's on her way back, and you don't know what's going to happen if she catches him. Or there's a later moment when Richard Farnsworth, as the local deputy, is exploring the house, and again, there's this pull and play. How much does each person know? And that builds some good suspense. This is a really well-constructed thriller. Rob Reiner of This Is Final Tap and Princess Bride fame directed this movie.
Really?
Yeah, and it's an interesting metaphor for the unpleasable fan base. The fan base that thinks they know better than the author, which is more relevant now.
He does finally kill her at the end of this movie.
Yes, he does. He bashes her in the head with a pig statue.
Well, you know what's bad about some of the villains in movies, Zach?
What's that, JD?
It's that sometimes they come back.
Your segue game is on point today, man.
From Stephen King, the modern master of terror, comes an all-new excursion to the place where horror comes alive. This used to be a nice little town, but for Jim Norman, it holds a terrifying secret. 27 years later, he's come back with his family, but they won't be alone. All he wants is a chance for a new beginning. The things that haunt him are about to begin all over again.
Mrs. Norman, can Jimmy come out and play? Sometimes they come back.
Cat's Eye, we talked about a minute ago, and that was originally supposed to include a fourth segment based on Sometimes They Come Back, which is a story from Night Shift. But the producer, Dino De Laurentiis, said, I think we can turn this story into its own movie. And this was a television film that premiered on CBS in 1991. Aside from the Stephen King connection, the reason I want to talk about this, it was directed by Tom McLaughlin, who previously made One Dark Night, a movie I like a lot, and Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives.
Which is a movie I like a lot.
Well, I like it a lot, too. But you have any memories about Sometimes They Come Back?
Very little. I know that Bert is in it. Bert Gummer.
No, he's in the sequel.
Oh, well, maybe I know nothing about this movie.
Zombie greasers from the 50s are coming back. This guy returns to his hometown.
Then who's in this one?
Brooke Adams from The Dead Zone in it. She's the wife. Tim Matheson is the main act. He was the voice of Johnny Quest back in the 60s. I like the zombie greasers. Pretty forgettable. A lot of the movie's attempts to make things scary, like Jews hanging from telephone lines, are not very effective. It's a bit on the corny side. Brooke Adams is good in this. There's a really solid jump scare involving the evil greasers' souped-up muscle car. This movie must have sold really well on VHS, because it got 2 direct-to-video sequels. Sometimes They Come Back Again from 1996. Yeah, Michael Gross is in it. It at least has that element of dead criminal returning from the past for revenge. Mm-hmm. Sometimes They Come Back for More from 1998 is apparently a ripoff of The Thing, where the devil gets loose in an Arctic research center. So that one sounds like it has absolutely nothing to do with the movie.
Charles Brady is new in town. The girls all like him. The teachers all respect him. The parents all trust him. But nobody really knows him. Like his mother. Behind their smile is a secret. Behind the secret is a hunger. And behind it all is the imagination of Stephen King.
Stephen King written a lot of books. He's prolific. He usually writes 1 or 2 books every year. But he doesn't just do books. Sometimes he actually does write the scripts for his own movie. Pet Sematary was one he wrote the screenplay for. And this next film is an example of an original script that was written for the screen. 1992 Sleepwalkers. Now, I think this movie came out in 1992, which was after Stephen King's cocaine years were over with. Mm-hmm. But I think it was conceived in the cocaine years. It's almost like a parody of the trashy 80s horror movie. These really sleazy elements, like these incestuous cat monsters, this mother-son cat monster duo, who are looking for a virgin to sacrifice. There's big gore scenes. Glenn Shaddix from Beetlejuice and Heathers gets his hand torn off. This film is really interested in stabbing people with unusual stabbing implements. Somebody gets
like the corn cob.
Somebody gets stabbed with a pencil, with a camera, on a fence row, and yeah, the corn cob. Corn cob is the most famous moment. Doesn't you say something like, you can't go until you have your vegetables?
Yeah, something like that.
Stabs the guy with the corn cob.
Yeah, I like this movie.
Oh, I like it too. It's a lot of fun. We don't have a lot of werecat movies.
Is there any other werecat movies besides this one?
Cat people.
Oh.
The first 5 minutes a thriller.
Yeah, I guess that is a werecat.
Yeah. I like the special effects. I like the monster designs. They look like those hairless cats that are really weird and creepy looking. Instead of trying to make a werewolf movie or something, Stephen King said, "Yeah, I'll make up my own monster." So they can cast illusions, but they have this weakness to mirrors, and cats are the only thing that can kill them, oddly. For the most part, the acting is pretty bad in this. Brian Krause is the guy playing Charles, the son, and he's terrible. Ron Perlman's in this movie, Magic Amek's in this movie, John Landis, Joe Dante, Clyde Barker, Toby Hooper, and Stephen King all have cameos. But I do like one performance in the film, Alice Krige as the mom. And Alice Krige has really made a career out of playing roles like this. She was the ghost in Ghost Story, she was Queen Borg. She always plays these older women who are sexual but evil. Mm-hmm. Gives a really thoughtful, interesting performance that is honestly better than the film around her.
Yeah, she definitely is the reason to watch this movie.
Yeah, she's awesome.
She's really got a dark half to her.
Oh my god.
Thad Beaumont has a secret, a piece of himself he keeps hidden.
I wrote those words, and I have no recollection of doing it.
But sometimes secrets take on a life of their own. Thad Beaumont thought he didn't need George Stark anymore, but George is not about to go quietly.
George Stark has somehow come to life.
Based upon a book by Stephen King, comes George A. Romero's masterful vision of a nightmare come true.
Are you ready?
The Dark Half.
1993 is The Dark Half. You know who directed this movie? George A. Romero.
Oh, yeah, I knew that.
George Romero and Stephen King have done a couple things before. This is a really overlooked Romero movie. It's not a really super memorable film, and I haven't seen it in a while, but I remember it being okay.
It was okay. I really liked the end.
Where the guy gets eaten by the birds. I like the general premise where this author's pseudonym literally comes to life and starts killing people. An interesting idea, and the movie has some good use of symbolism. Isn't there a moment where a roasted turkey in an oven is cut in two?
Yeah, or something like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of use of duality like that. If you know what the movie's about going in, you know the twist is coming. Obviously, something supernatural is going on. He absorbed a twin in the womb. It's something like that. Timothy Hutton is good in this. Michael Rooker is good in this.
I'm sorry, Michael Rooker in my book should always rock either a bald head or a mohawk.
He should always be the guy from Mallrats or Yondu.
Right.
George Romero and Dario Argento are friends, and I've always thought this film had been Argento influence with its use of color and some of the stalking and slashing scenes. That ending where somebody gets eaten by birds, huh?
Yeah, they really mangle him.
There's a little bit of me in that machine, and a little bit of it in me.
There was an accident today. The worst one I've ever seen.
Have you considered the possibility that the machine might be haunted?
3 modern masters of horror have just created the ultimate machine for terror. The Mangler.
Second Toby Hooper Stephen King movie tonight. The Mangler from 1995, which is a bad movie. This is a classic of so bad it's good cinema.
I've seen this movie once. I was little. I remember nothing about it.
You don't remember the giant murderous industrial laundry
I
press?
remember that. I remember there being a scene where it floods or something.
The demon crawls out of the machine and chases him around the factory.
Or that might be what it is.
When your main villain is immobile, it's very difficult to get it to kill people. Film has this problem where people are constantly getting too close to this machine that they know is killing people. Ted Levine, Buffalo Bill himself, plays the main police officer. Ted Levine usually plays crazy people, and he's playing the hero in this, but he's still acting like he's a crazy person. Robert Englund plays the old man who owns the laundry press. Maybe Robert Englund's most over-the-top performance. You know, no small task. The special effects are pretty cheesy. There's a moment where the spirit of the Mangler gets into a refrigerator. There's a lot of really goofy stuff. Though I have discovered recently, through my travels on the internet, at least 2 people who love this movie, who think it's a great, great, underrated film. So
Only 2.
Every movie's got its fans, I guess. And they made 2 sequels to The Mangler.
What?
In 2002, they made The Mangler 2, which is apparently the demon from the first movie gets into a computer. And then in 2005, they made a movie called The Mangler Reborn, which from my understanding was shot for very little money, and it's about the guy rebuilding the Mangler in his basement.
That old Mangler, it had a press on it, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't that make things thinner?
You are unstoppable tonight, my friend.
I can't help it, man! Can't help it.
For Billy Halleck, life is sweet, bigger is better, and too much is never enough. But tonight, all of that will change. From the best-selling novel by Stephen King comes the new shape of terror. Fear the power, beware the danger, believe the curse.
Please, take it off before this goes any further.
Stephen King's Thinner. More terror, less filling.
Have you ever seen Thinner from 98?
Oh, yeah, it's all Thinner.
Todd Holland, the director of Fright Night and Child's Play, made this movie. He didn't direct another movie for 20 years after making this.
But isn't the dad from Home Alone in this?
I don't think so. The main actor is Robert John Burke, who I know from RoboCop 3. You mentioned Richard Bachman earlier. Thinner is the only film adaptation of a Richard Bachman book. My main problem with this movie is every single character in the film is a terrible human being. They're all aggressively bad people. This guy runs over an old gypsy woman while getting a blowjob from his wife and feels no remorse for it. Everything he does in this movie is to avoid taking responsibility for his crime.
Thinner.
White and from town. I feel like this movie was trying to be like a Tales from the Crypt type story where it's about bad people getting their comeuppance, and that probably would have been fine for a half an hour, but for a 90-minute movie, there's nobody to like, so there's really no reason to keep watching it. I think the movie is trying to be funny. Do you remember this really strange dream sequence at the carnival where he gets in the car with the lizard guy and they're being run over by the gypsy man? You don't remember that?
Yeah.
The acting is pretty terrible. That main actor, Robert John Burke, I've seen him in a couple things, and I don't think I've liked him in a single thing I've seen him in. The special effects even good in this.
Yeah.
Like, it has a couple of memorable moments, but it is definitely one of the more forgettable Stephen King adaptations.
I saw it once, and it was really like a bad dream. And sometimes I keep telling myself I just need a Dreamcatcher.
Here's the Duddits. Our Dreamcatcher.
A circle of friendship.
To the duds.
A web of mystery. A pattern of fear. Form the design of an alien invasion. On March 21st, evil slips through.
Come with me, Owen. I'll show you things you wish you'd never seen.
Speaking of bad Stephen King adaptations, out of all the films I watched for this podcast...
Shitweasel! That's the review for this movie. Shitweasel!
It is a shitweasel. Out of all the movies I watched for this podcast, I think Dreamcatcher is the worst. And I have a theory. Remember when Stephen King got hit by that car? He almost died. While recovering from that accident, he gained addiction to painkillers, which he kicked eventually. And I talk about Stephen King's cocaine period. I think Dreamcatcher is from Stephen King's painkiller period. Dreamcatcher has premises for 3 or 5 movies.
It really does seem like 5 different Stephen King stories piled into one movie.
Yeah, because you have Duddits, the psychic, mentally disabled boy.
The movie's almost segmented like it was.
Yeah, it's flashing back between the present and their childhood.
Right. It also has psychics in it, can do freaky shit with their minds, which is very reminiscent of Carrie.
Well, it also has that element of Stand By Me. Boys are having these childhood adventures, and they go out to the cabin every year to commiserate and bro out.
Right. It's like he took 5 of his previously established stories, piled them into one script, and then added aliens.
Whole idea of Mr. Gray alien who possesses one of the characters.
Mr. Gay.
Oh my god, it's so bad. Then there's an alien invasion story. This is the only time I've seen Morgan Freeman give a bad performance. Playing this unhinged government agent who hunts aliens. It's a really ham-fisted performance, and I'm not used to seeing that from Morgan Freeman. He's usually pretty reliable.
I know, but have you seen my hair in this movie, baby?
I think what people really remember from Dreamcatcher is the way the aliens get to Earth. They start out as this virus, then the people develop really bad gas, and there's lots of farting in this movie. They explode out of their anus as these worm, snake-like creatures, they call them shitweasels. That premise could be turned into a good story. But it's hard to take a horror film seriously when there's so much farting in it. And people are using the term shitweasel.
But it does have a good cast.
Donnie Wahlberg as Duddits is a pretty embarrassing performance.
Well, that is.
What do you think of Jason Lee as Beaver?
I like Jason Lee as Beaver.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of that colorful Stephen King profanity in this movie.
Yeah, fuck me, Charlie.
Fuckerito, various variations on fuck. And then that twist ending where Duddits has been a good alien all along. Where the fuck did that come from? It is a fiasco.
How does that work? Did his mom get infected with the disease? He has parents.
Yeah, you meet his mom.
Yeah.
It raises a lot of questions. If it wasn't 2.5 hours long, it would be a great party movie. It's too long for a party. Every 15 minutes, something happens where you're just going, what the fuck am I watching? I don't know if you could make a good film about shitweasels.
I mean, I think you could. You would have to do it from a different approach than making it a straight horror film.
Yeah, perhaps you would need a secret window to look through.
Oh, you stole my thunder, you sumbitch!
The only thing that matters is the ending. It's the most important part of the story.
For Mort Rainey, every story is a window into another world. But some windows should never be opened.
You stole my story.
I don't believe I know you.
I know you, Mr. Rainey. That's what matters. You stole my story.
Remember, my story, secret window. You and me, the only people that know about that, right?
What do you want from me? My ending. I want you to fix it.
What matters is the ending. It's the most important part of the story.
What's Stephen King's favorite subject besides Maine?
Colorado?
No, it's himself. Look how many books he's written about writers. Shining, Misery, The Dark Half, The Tommyknockers, Desperation, Lizzie's Story, that one Dark Tower book. All of these characters are thinly veiled versions of himself. Once again, Secret Window is another one about an author.
Is it based in Colorado?
The book is set in Colorado. I'm not sure where the movie's set. Who stars in this movie?
Johnny Depp.
Yeah, are you going to do that the whole time?
I am.
Is this because I stole your thunder?
It is.
This is almost a one-man show for Johnny Depp. He spends a lot of the movie hanging out in a cabin, talking to his dog. He has some nice physical comedy.
Is that what the kids call it these days? Talking to his dog.
Talking to his dog.
Sitting on the couch talking to his dog.
Oh my god. John Turturro plays the bad guy in this, Mr. Shooter. It's always nice to see Turturro in a movie. He has this slightly exaggerated Mississippi drawl. This one is not really truly horror. There's people getting killed in it, but it's more thriller. Mm-hmm. Do you remember that twist ending to Secret Window?
He's actually Shooter?
Yeah, Johnny Depp and John Turturro are the same person.
What?
Anytime a movie does that twist ending, you have to roll your eyes at it a little bit. It's not a bad one. It's pretty forgettable, but Secret Window is worth seeing because it does have some good Johnny Depp moments in it. Timothy Hutton is in this movie too. Second appearance from Timothy Hutton in a Stephen King adaptation.
Are you making a book?
No.
Okay, because I'm just saying, you're having all these facts and shit.
I pick up on these things.
When Mike Enslin lost his daughter, the afterlife became his obsession. But after years of searching, he no longer believes.
So you're saying there's no such thing as ghosts?
I'm saying I've never seen one.
Gerald Olin, manager of the Dolphin.
If I can just get the key to 1408.
In the 95 years of the hotel's existence, there have been 56 deaths in 1408. Do not stay in that room.
Based on a story by Stephen King.
Did you call the cops?
They're in 1408. The room's empty.
I warned you about 1408.
1408 from 2007.
I saw this movie, didn't like it.
This one's okay.
You know what? You don't like Salem's Lot, bitch. I don't have to like 1408. Boring. It's slow paced.
There are some moments.
And I hate John Cusack.
You don't like Cusack? I don't know.
I never have liked him, really.
He's okay.
Doesn't say anything. You just want to punch the smug bastard. And he has this dull look on him.
I had no idea you felt so strongly about John Cusack, JD.
I hate John Cusack. Yeah.
I would say that how much you like this movie depends a lot on how much you like John Cusack. And this is mostly a one-man show for him. And yeah, this is a PG-13, effects-heavy ghost movie, which I normally hate. This one works for me. It tries different types of scares. Some of it does sort of make your eye roll. Oh, he has a dead daughter, and he has to get over his grief over losing his daughter.
Isn't he also a writer in this?
Yes. I do like Samuel Jackson in this, though. The manager of the hotel who says, the room's just fucking evil. I don't get the hate. Totally solid little time killer. Not a great film, but worth watching. I guess we have to agree to disagree.
Well, I just feel like we're in the midst of talking.
Why don't you get Billy dressed? I'll take him into town with him. Hit the store before it gets all bought out.
What's going on? It's death.
Something in the mist! The only way we're going to help ourselves is to seek rescue.
Tie this around your waist.
Before.
Let us know you got at least 300 feet.
It is time to take sides.
I thought that there were other dimensions. They wanted to try and make a window.
Well, maybe your window turned out to be a door.
Have you seen The Mist from 2007?
I have seen The Mist.
This is a movie a lot of people really, really love.
Dimensional demons and shit.
People trapped in a supermarket while monsters are coming for them. Frank Darabont, who previously made Shawshank Redemption and The Green Mile, both Stephen King adaptations, though not typical Stephen King movies. The truth is, I really don't like The Mist that much. Really, it's the fault of one character in the movie. Do you remember the crazy Christian bitch?
Yes.
The minute she appears in the film and opens her mouth, I want to feed her to the monsters. And she's in most of the movie. I'm pretty a-religious in general. Do not like the fanatical Christians who are assholes to everybody. I don't think anybody does, but it's so heavy-handed. She's such an annoying character. Marcia Gay Harden plays her, and I want to smash her head with a hammer. There's a scene where an old woman throws a can of peas at her, and when that happened, I went, yes, throw more peas at her. I just hate that character so much. It really sours me on the whole movie. This one has got a lot of cool monsters in it. Weird pterodactyl things and these spider monsters.
Yeah.
Bugs that sting people and their heads swell up.
Right. What's not awesome about that? Cthulhu tentacle monsters?
Yeah, there's definitely something of a Lovecraftian element to this film. Do we like Thomas Jane? For a while there, Thomas Jane was this hot, up-and-coming guy. He's in Dreamcatcher as well. I've never really seen a movie with Thomas Jane in it that I liked all the way through. A lot of people loved his Punisher, but I didn't like that either.
I didn't like his Punisher for sure. Even though I overall liked the movie, and I think it's got some good suspense to it, I really don't like murder-suicide ending.
People have a lot of strong feelings about that ending. I get it. The whole movie, thematically, is about the way people panic during a crisis.
And then this character spends the whole time not making those mistakes and not panicking.
And then
at the end, he panics.
And it's not so much that he kills his son and these 3 other people. It's that immediately afterwards, here comes the military convoy that have saved the day in the course of the story. It feels like a kick in the balls. Why are you fucking with me, movie?
People like that should be taken and locked in a deep, dark cell.
You are unstoppable!
I can't help it, man. When you got it, you got it.
Don't use your cell phone.
We're gonna survive this. People are gonna die.
They act for the good of the group as a whole. They may be the next stage in human evolution. What's happening now is more than temporary anarchy. It's the start of a war.
It's a suicide mission. You're gonna die.
I want to see my son.
Do not withhold your mercy from us, O Lord. For troubles without number surround us.
Are you coming home?
Johnny's voice.
No, it's not. You know that is not your son.
I just want you to come
Clay,
home.
no!
I have not seen this one.
The most recent Stephen King adaptation from 2016, Cell. The book was published about a decade ago, and it was a big literary deal. Eli Roth of Cabin Fever and Hostel fame was going to turn it into a movie. But it took 10 years to get the movie made, and Eli Roth was nowhere to be seen by this point. And this has one of those high-concept Stephen King premises. Cell phones turn people into zombies.
What?
Though they're more like the 28 Days Later zombies, so you would say they're not really zombies.
The 28 Days Later zombies are not zombies.
In this one, the cell phone signal causes people to become indiscriminately homicidal, and they act in groups. John Cusack and Samuel Jackson are in this movie.
I hate it.
Well, you like Samuel Jackson, right?
Yeah, but I hate, with a vomity passion, John Cusack.
I had no idea you felt this way.
And his sister, I want to punch her in the face, too.
I like Joan, too. Cell partakes in a lot of the usual zombie movie cliches, and it also has some unintentionally funny moments. The ending is really a head-scratcher, right? I've got a long list here. Anything that jumps out at you?
Okay, let's do this. Creepshow anthology series where it has a lot of cool deaths. Christine about a killer card. Children of the Corn about killer kids. Maximum Overdrive, killer Mack trucks.
Killer everything.
Creepshow 2 is the same as Creepshow 1, but with slightly different stories. It, Killer Clown. Golden Years, don't know. You can say that one later. Lawnmower Man about a killer man with a lawnmower. The Evil Things, Devil opens up a pawn shop. Tommy Knockers, aliens or maybe not aliens. Something with a rock. The Shawshank Redemption. Big guy accused of raping kids, doesn't really, and he has some kind of weird healing powers.
That's the Green Mile.
Oh, shit. Shawshank Redemption, I don't...
Susan Sarandon's husband escapes from prison.
Oh, okay. The Stand, Average Joe fights the devil.
End of the world.
Dolores Claiborne, go.
Kathy Bates murdered her husband years ago, and a cop's trying to figure out if she did it or not.
The Langoliers, Flying Mouse eat a plane. Night Flyer, Dracula flies a plane.
Trucks, remake of Maximum Overdrive.
At Pupil Go.
Kid makes friend with next door neighbor who's a Nazi.
Green Mile is a guy that gets accused of raping kids and has special healing powers. Storm of the Century, Storm of the Century.
Carson and Land is Anthony Hopkins is psychic or something. I didn't see it.
Rose Red, Evil House. Diary of Ellen Rimbauer, something about an evil house that takes place before or after Rose Red. Riding a bullet, a guy rides a bullet.
There's a roller coaster and the Grim Reaper's after him or something.
Kingdom Hospital is a hospital in a kingdom.
Freaky shit's happening in a hospital.
Desperation, there's a lot of people in despair.
That is technically correct.
Nightmares and Dreamscapes is about nightmares and dreamscapes. Children of the Corn 2009 remake of Killer Kids.
Did you see Children of the Corn 1984?
Yeah.
You like that movie?
Yeah. Haven is...
Weird small town, right?
Yeah, Weird Small Town. Bag of Bones. Did not see, although wasn't that 6-week long
Yeah,
thing?
Bag of Bones was a miniseries.
Murder mystery in a weird small town. Under the dome, weird small town gets stuck underneath the dome and weird shit happens that might be vaguely alien. I watched that. That's a pretty good show. It gets you really intrigued. The Good Marriage is about a marriage that was really good.
No, actually, it's about a woman who realizes her husband has been a mob hitman her entire life.
Mercy is about a person who receives mercy.
Yeah, it's something about a little kid whose grandmother is a ghost.
The Big Driver is about a driver who's big.
Maria Bello gets raped by a truck driver, and she's out for revenge.
Oh, okay, well that actually sounds interesting. 11/23/63 is about a guy that goes back in time and tries to save...
JFK.
I have not seen, however, I hear really good things about it.
People do seem to like it. James Franco is the main character, right?
Yes, I believe so. You know, James Franco in a serious role. What?
It happens sometimes. He was in Spider-Man, lest we forget.
That role wasn't all that serious. And then The Dark Tower is about a big dark tower that has an evil guy and a good guy. And they might vaguely be cowboys. I don't know.
Things like Christine, Maximum Overdrive, there will be a theme episode for. Children of the Corn, Creepshow, these things will come up on future episodes. Let's just leave it at that. Aside from the things we've already talked about, like Carrie, I think we have mentioned in some capacity every single Stephen King thing.
We have covered the oeuvre of Stephen King.
Been all over Maine and back.
Do you know me? It's frightening how many novels of suspense I've written, but still, when I'm not recognized, it just kills me. So instead of saying I wrote Carrie, I carry the American Express card. The American Express card. Don't leave home without it.
Thank you so much to David Brown for the continued support of the show. You've been commenting regularly on our last couple episodes. Thank you so much. Dr. DSAC MD, thank you for the feedback. Thank you, Juan, on the Facebook group for the feedback. We appreciate every like and comment and email we get. Thank you, Dustin Koski, for your thoughts. If you want to contact the show, you can find us on Facebook, www.facebook.com/TheBangersAndMashShow. I'm on Twitter, @LastMonsterKid. We should probably get out of this hotel before we both go insane and run each other over with an evil car or something. I don't know.